Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered in a world of noise. The Babylon of today is not made of brick and mortar. It's built of screens, schedules, scrolling, and striving. It surrounds you not only with voices without, but turmoil within. But I bring you tonight to a scroll, a divine message, written not in comfort, but in captivity. Jeremiah 29. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. But wait, this was not spoken in Jerusalem. Not in the temple, not in glory. This was spoken in Babylon, in exile, to a people torn from their homes, shattered in soul, confused in purpose. The exile is not the end. Listen, child of God, you may think you've fallen. You may feel lost, but the Lord says, I have not forgotten you in Babylon. You're not in exile because I've rejected you. You're in exile because I'm working something in you that you could never find in comfort. God does his deepest work in foreign soil. God's plans are not cancelled in chaos, the enemy whispers. God's plans are over. But the Lord thunders, my plans have just begun. Babylon didn't cancel the promise, it activated it. He speaks of plans to prosper you while you stand in the land of confusion. Don't wait for peace to come after the storm. Find the peace in the storm. This is the peace that passes all understanding, because it is not based in your understanding. Resting is trusting, you say. How can I rest my mind? The answer is not to run, it is to root. He told them, build houses, plant gardens, marry, multiply. He was saying, live fully, even in the land of exile. Rest your mind by releasing your fears into the hands of the one who formed you. Your rest begins when you let go of the need to control Babylon, and instead trust the God who reigns over it. Seek the shalom of the city, and here comes the mystery. He said, seek the peace, the shalom of the city to which I have carried you. That makes no sense in the natural, but in the spirit it reveals the way to peace. Bless where you are. Your mind will find rest not by cursing your condition, but by redeeming it. Bring shalom to where you are, and the Prince of Peace will reign in you. Call, seek, find, and finally, the sacred order. He says, you will call on me, and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. You want peace of mind. Then do not seek peace as a thing. Seek the giver of peace. The peace is not in the place. It is in the presence, and he promises, you will find me. So I say to you now, stop striving, start seeking, stop fearing. Start calling, stop wandering, start worshiping, stop wrestling, start resting, because the God of Israel, the God who speaks in Babylon, is still speaking to you, and he says, I know the plans I have for you. Shalom, rest your mind and find him. When we read Jeremiah 29, particularly verse 11, we often quote it with joy, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. But we rarely pause to see where this word was spoken. It wasn't uttered from a place of celebration. It wasn't given during a festival in Jerusalem. It wasn't spoken when everything was going well. No, it was sent to a broken people in a foreign land. It was a word given in exile, and that is precisely what makes it powerful. The people of Judah had been ripped from their homes, taken by force into Babylon. They had watched their beloved city burned, their temple desecrated, their lives torn in two. They were in a land not their own, under rulers who did not know their God. Confusion, grief, and fear would have filled their hearts. Many believed their lives were over, that God had forsaken them, that their story had ended, that the exile was the final word. But then comes the voice of the prophet, carrying the words of the Most High. This is what the Lord says. Not the end, not destruction, not judgment forever, but hope. The exile was not the end. It was the beginning of something new, something holy, something they could not yet see. And that is the mystery of God's ways. He is the God who speaks in exile, the God who moves not just in temples and mountains, but in prisons, deserts, hospitals, and foreign lands. The God who shows up not just when the sun is shining, but when the night is long and cold. Babylon to the Jews seemed like a punishment, but to God it was a positioning. The land of their captivity would become the soil of their transformation. Babylon was not outside God's control. it was under his orchestration. So I ask you, where is your exile? Where have you been taken that you never chose to go? Perhaps it's a season of depression. Maybe it's a relationship that has ended. Maybe it's sickness, loss, betrayal, or a future you didn't ask for. Like Israel, you look around and nothing is familiar. You wonder, has God left me? Has he changed his mind? But hear this clearly, your exile is not the end. It is the beginning. God says, I carried you into exile. Did you catch that? Not Babylon, not Nebuchadnezzar, not chance or fate. I carried you. That means even your place of pain has been touched by the sovereign hand of God. That doesn't mean he caused your suffering, but it means he is sovereign in your suffering. And he will use it for his glory. You see, the people of Israel thought their story had been interrupted, but God was writing a new chapter. He had a plan for their future, and the plan included Babylon. God doesn't need perfect conditions to fulfill his promises. He speaks into the chaos, not after it. He prepares a table in the presence of your enemies. He anoints your head with oil while your enemies are still near. That is the God we serve, and so the invitation comes to you. Stop mourning the past as if your destiny ended there. The loss you suffered, the change you didn't want, the unexpected road you now walk, God is still God over it. And he is saying, I know the plans I have for you. Not had, have, present tense, even now, even here, even in Babylon. Sometimes the exile is where you finally hear his voice clearly. Sometimes the captivity strips away the noise and false comforts, and you find the God who was always near, but now seems closer than ever. He has not forsaken you. He has not forgotten your name. He is the God who records every tear and restores what the locusts have eaten. So take heart. This is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a greater one. The exile is not your destruction. It is your preparation. And in that strange land you will find the God who still speaks, still leads, and still fulfills his word. Just as he did then, he will do now. The exile is not the end. It is the beginning. When God spoke the words of Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you. He wasn't speaking to a people walking in blessing. He wasn't talking to a nation at peace, with their temple intact, their families whole, and their future secure. No, he spoke this to a people who had just been ripped from their land, taken captive by a foreign empire, and forced to live under the shadow of their enemies. Their temple was in ruins, their king was dethroned, their future looked shattered, they were in Babylon, not by choice but by force. Their hearts were grieving, they were asking questions that sounded like, why God, where are you? Is this the end? And in that place of devastation, God speaks, not with a whisper, but with a declaration. I know the plans I have for you, not plans of destruction, but plans to prosper you, not to harm you, but to give you a future and a hope. The most astonishing thing about that verse is not just the promise itself, but when and where God chose to say it, in the midst of crisis, in the heart of confusion, in the ashes of what once was. That is the very character of God. He does not wait for the storm to pass before he speaks peace. He does not wait for your life to be in order before he releases destiny. He speaks in the storm, into the confusion, and through the brokenness. His purposes are not dictated by your circumstances. His plans are not revised when life falls apart. He does not need perfect conditions to fulfill his perfect will. Too often we think that when life is falling apart, God must have changed his mind about us. When we lose the job or the marriage or the dream, we assume his plan has been paused, or worse, canceled. But the truth is, God's plan was never based on everything going smoothly. It was never dependent on our comfort or predictability. It was designed to prevail through fire, through exile, through adversity. That's why the promise came in Babylon, because God wanted his people to know that his covenant does not collapse in crisis. You may be walking through your own Babylon right now. Maybe life hasn't gone the way you expected. Maybe everything around you feels unfamiliar, uncertain, or even unbearable. Maybe the plans you had have crumbled, the dreams you cherished seem distant. And you're wondering, where is God in this? But I want to tell you today, He is right there, and not only is He present, but He's active, working, orchestrating, redeeming. He hasn't torn up His blueprint just because the road has shifted. No, He is the master architect, and even when the structure seems to collapse, He is laying a new foundation, stronger and deeper than the one before. God's plans are not fragile. They are not easily broken. They are eternal, rooted in His sovereignty, shaped by His wisdom, and secured by His love. Babylon may have surprised the people, but it didn't surprise God, and nothing you're facing now has taken Him off guard. He saw it all before you stepped into it, and He has already woven it into the fabric of His purpose for your life. That's why the verse doesn't say you know the plans. It says, I know the plans, because you won't always understand. You won't always see the way forward. You may feel lost, but He's not confused. He's not uncertain. He's not pacing the floors of heaven wondering what to do next. He knows, and that is enough. Your rest begins where your need to control ends. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know the one who does. So don't let the chaos around you convince you that God is silent. Don't let delay make you think He's forgotten. Don't let pain rewrite what He has promised. His plans are still intact. They are unfolding, maybe not the way you expected, but in a way that will bring Him greater glory and bring you deeper peace. He said, I know the plans. Not I hope, not I'm trying, not if everything goes right. He said, I know. That means the plan is alive. It's moving, and it includes you even here, even now. The chaos doesn't cancel His plans. In fact, it may just be the very soil in which they begin to grow. In Jeremiah 29, the Lord speaks to His people in exile, people who have lost their land, their homes, their temple, and their sense of identity. Everything familiar had been stripped away. They were living in Babylon, under foreign rule, surrounded by pagan gods and unfamiliar customs. In that moment of confusion, anxiety, and despair, the command of God was not what they expected. He didn't say, escape. He didn't say, fight. He didn't say, rebel. He said, build houses and settle down. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Seek the peace of the city to which I have carried you. He was saying, live, trust, rest. You see, resting your mind isn't about escaping Babylon. It's about discovering peace while still in Babylon. That is the great paradox of the walk with God. He does not always deliver us from the storm immediately. He teaches us how to dwell in Him within the storm. Resting, in the biblical sense, is not passive. It's not shutting off your thoughts or pretending everything is fine. It is an active, deliberate trust. It is a decision to say, even though I don't understand this season, I will build, I will plant, I will live, I will trust. To rest your mind is to recognize that God is in control, even when your world is out of control. It's refusing to let anxiety rule your thoughts, even when your surroundings give you every reason to worry. Babylon was not the Israelites' home. It was the place of their trial, but God had not abandoned them there. In fact, He was very much with them. He was guiding them in unfamiliar territory, and His word to them was essentially this: you can rest because I'm still in control, even here. We often think rest comes when the trial ends, when the situation resolves, when the battle is over. But the kind of rest God invites us into is deeper than that. It's not tied to external peace, it's rooted in internal surrender. You can be in a foreign land and still walk in peace. You can be surrounded by uncertainty and still have a mind that is anchored, because rest is not the absence of trouble. It is the presence of God in the midst of it. Think of Jesus on the boat during the storm. The winds were raging, the waves were crashing, the disciples were panicking. And where was Jesus? Sleeping, resting. Why? Because He wasn't at the mercy of the storm. He was Lord over it. And that's the revelation we need. If Christ, the one who lives in you, can rest in the middle of the storm, then so can you. But it starts with trust. Trust is the doorway to rest your mind. You have to lay down your need to figure everything out. You have to stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios in your head and start meditating on what God has promised. You have to stop striving to fix what's out of your control and start surrendering to the one who holds it all. That's not laziness, it's holy release. That's not giving up, it's giving over. The Israelites wanted to return to Jerusalem immediately. They couldn't imagine finding any peace in Babylon. But God told them, settle down, this season will last longer than you think, but I am with you in it, and I will bring you through it. The call was to root themselves in trust, to embrace the present with faith that the future was still in God's hands. And in doing that, they could find peace even in exile. And so it is with you. The mind races, the heart grows weary. You feel out of place, out of time, out of answers. But God is not absent. He is inviting you to a deeper rest. Not just physical rest, but soul rest. The kind that comes when you stop demanding answers and start depending on His presence. The kind that whispers, even here, even now, He is with me, He is for me, He knows the way. Rest doesn't mean the storm ends. It means the storm no longer controls you. Rest means you have shifted your weight off your own understanding and onto His unshakable word. And in that place, Babylon or not, you will find the peace that surpasses understanding. You will find rest when you trust the one who holds your tomorrow, even if you don't understand your today. When God spoke to His people through the prophet Jeremiah in chapter 29, He gave a command that seemed strange, almost offensive to those hearing it for the first time. He told the exiles in Babylon, seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Think about that for a moment. These were not just any cities. This was Babylon, the land of their captors, the very empire that destroyed their temple, carried them away in chains, and mocked their God. And yet God says, seek its shalom. Seek the peace of the place where you are, even if it's a place you never wanted to be. To the natural mind, this doesn't make sense. How could God ask them to bless what had broken them? How could He ask them to invest in a land they longed to leave? But that is precisely the point. God's ways are not our ways. His thoughts are higher, His purposes deeper. He wasn't just speaking to a geographical exile. He was speaking to a spiritual condition. He was revealing a path to peace that did not depend on location, comfort, or change of circumstance. It was a peace that came from alignment with His heart. You see, we often think peace of mind will come when our surroundings change, when we get the job, the healing, the breakthrough, the answer. But God says, no, peace begins when your heart aligns with mine, right where you are. The command to seek the peace of Babylon was not just a survival strategy, it was a spiritual key. It meant choosing to shift their posture from resentment to responsibility, from despair to purpose. It meant that even in the land of exile, they were still carriers of the kingdom. There's a powerful truth here. If you want peace of mind, you must learn to bring peace to the place where you are. You must choose to become a vessel of shalom, not just a seeker of escape, because peace is not found in distance, it's found in presence. God's presence in your present place, and when you align with His will, even when it's uncomfortable, peace begins to flow, not just around you, but within you. Blessing Babylon didn't mean agreeing with its idolatry or compromising their faith. It meant becoming light in the darkness. It meant being planted instead of pouting. It meant serving, praying, and loving, even in a land they did not choose. That's what transforms the heart. That's what brings true rest to the mind. When you begin to sow peace into the ground of your current reality, even if that ground feels foreign and unfriendly, something miraculous happens. You begin to change. Peace becomes not just something you wait for, it becomes something you carry. And isn't that what Jesus did? He came to a broken world, hostile to God, bound in sin and rebellion. He didn't wait for the world to change before offering His peace. He brought it My peace I give to you, he said, not as the world gives. He spoke it over storms. He released it in the face of betrayal. He carried it through the cross, and now he invites us to do the same. So maybe Babylon is not your end, it's your assignment. Maybe your workplace, your family situation, your current struggle is not where peace is absent, but where peace is waiting to be released. The moment you stop cursing where you are and start blessing it in prayer, in love, in faith, that's when your mind begins to rest. Because now you are not at war with your environment. You are walking in step with your God. Seek the peace of the city. It means shift your focus. It means speak life where you feel death. It means plant hope where you see ruin. It means choose to bless where you once only mourned. It's not easy. It's not natural. But it is supernatural. And when you begin to operate in God's supernatural peace, your mind will follow. Your thoughts will settle. Your fears will shrink because you are no longer reacting. You are now reigning not by power but by peace. The city may not change overnight. Babylon might still be Babylon, but your heart will change. And that changes everything, because now you're not just waiting for peace, you've become a conduit of it. And in blessing the place where you are, you unlock the peace your soul has been longing for. Jeremiah 29:11 is one of the most quoted promises in all of Scripture. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope. But the beauty of this verse doesn't just lie in its words, it lies in the verses that follow. Because the promise is not a dead statement, but a living invitation. God isn't just offering a future and a hope. He's calling his people into intimacy, into pursuit, into communion. He follows that great declaration with this, "Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." This is the divine key to resting your mind, communion with God. Not just knowing about him, but seeking him. Not just quoting his promises, but pressing into his presence. Because true peace, true rest, is never found in information. It is found in relationship. It is not enough to know that God has a plan for your life. You must know the God who holds that plan, and that knowledge doesn't come from intellect or theology alone. It comes from pursuit. It comes from prayer, from the secret place, from seeking him not half-heartedly, not occasionally, but with all your heart. We live in a world that is noisy, distracted, fast-paced, and filled with anxiety. Our minds are constantly pulled in 1,000 directions. We scroll through our fears. We replay our worries. We calculate outcomes. And yet we often do all of that before we've even taken one breath in the presence of God. We seek solutions, not his face. We seek escape, not encounter. But God says, "You will find me when you seek me with all your heart." In other words, if you want peace, you must seek the Prince of Peace. Prayer is not just a religious exercise. It is the act of recentering your soul. It is the place where your frantic mind becomes still, where the fog lifts, where the lies of fear are silenced by the voice of the Father. It is in prayer that you are reminded who he is and who you are. And that reminder is essential, because a restless mind is often the result of forgetfulness. We forget that we are not in control. We forget that God is faithful. We forget that he is near, but prayer brings us back. It anchors us again. It clears the static. God told the exiles in Babylon not only that he had a plan, but that they would come to know that plan through intimacy. "Call to me, seek me, pray to me, and I will be found by you." He wasn't inviting them to figure everything out. He was inviting them to draw near, to pursue him in the midst of their uncertainty. He didn't promise instant answers. He promised presence, and that is enough, because when you are close to God, even the unanswered questions become peaceful. When your soul is aligned with his heart, the need to understand everything begins to fade. Rest does not come from having all the answers. It comes from trusting the one who does. And trust is built in the place of seeking. This kind of pursuit requires intention. It doesn't happen by accident. You must choose to silence the noise, to carve out time to set your affection on him. It doesn't need to be complicated. It can be a whisper in the morning, a song in the middle of your day, a journaled prayer late at night. It is not the form that matters, it is the focus. Are you seeking him? Are you drawing near? Because the promise is not vague. I will be found by you. God is not hiding from you. He's waiting for you. He longs to be found, and when he is found, peace is found, because he is peace. And when you dwell in his presence, your mind begins to calm. The fears lose their grip. The what-ifs no longer dominate you. Because you are in communion with the one who holds time, history, and your very breath in his hands. So let your mind rest, not because the storm has stopped, but because you have come into the secret place. Let your soul be still, not because the questions have all been answered, but because you have heard the only answer that matters. I am with you. Seek him, find him, and in him find rest.